SBC Media.
Welcome to iGaming Daily, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe. Supported by SBC Summit Barcelona, the industry-leading conference bringing you the future of sports betting and iGaming.
SBC Summit Barcelona is the fastest growing sports betting and iGaming event in the industry, happening on the 19th to the 21st of September. Experience the entire global industry coverage under one roof, with 15,000 delegates, over 350 exhibitors, and so much more. Get your tickets now at sbcevents.com.
A conflict brews across European gambling's regulatory landscape as the Maltese government stands by its decision to sanction the Gaming Amendment Bill, commonly referred to as Bill 55. This controversial bill has amended Malta's Gambling Act to allow Maltese courts the power to reject the recognition and enforcement of foreign judgments, liabilities, or enforcements relating to the online gambling sector. First to respond was the Federal Authority of German Gambling, also known as the GGL, which branded Bill 55 as a protective shield for Malta operators from international liabilities. More recently, Dutch lawyers called on the Netherlands government to demand EU intervention against the bill. The lawyers in question believe that Bill 55 poses a threat to the Netherlands' online gambling market. Standing its ground, Malta asserts that its MGA licence allows for local businesses to offer services throughout the EU. Malta has also cited the EU principle of free movement of services as supporting its bill, regardless of individual country-specific gambling laws. Thanks for tuning in to iGaming Daily, sponsored by SBC Summit Barcelona. I'm Jessie Sale, Senior Journalist at SBC News, and today my whole team is here. I'm joined by Ted and Ted, which is, of course, as confusing as ever. It doesn't help that we are all in 3 separate locations. However, we're going to make it work. How are you both doing today?
I'm good, thank you, Jessie. Good to be here with you, making your hosting debut.
Yeah, my very first hosting debut. I'm very excited. Ted M, how are you?
Very well, Jessie. A great intro, and looking forward to talking about Bill 55, causing a brew in Europe. Yeah.
Excellent. So, Ted, I'll come to you first. Why has the government of Malta chosen to amend its gambling bill by adding what are considered protective provisions under Bill 55?
So, the context of this bill is important. Bill 55 was sponsored by Silvio Cerebri, the Minister of the Economy and European Funds, and was later sanctioned by President George Vella in April. And simply put, Malta believes that Bill 55, its amendments and provisions, will bring legal clarity and transparency to its existing Gambling Act and licensed businesses operating under a Malta MGA license. That's why it's required. It kind of sets these are the legal boundaries for Malta operators operating within its jurisdiction. When it was first presented, many believed it was light on context, but Malta now cites that it will only trigger the use of Bill 55 on 2 conditions. If Maltese courts believe that the actions by foreign gaming regulators intervene with Maltese laws of the Malta Gambling Act, and if it actually believes that an operator has acted lawfully under the provisions of the Gambling Act. So those are the 2 conditions in which it will trigger Bill 55 as a protection.
I'd probably just add, obviously, a key reason why Malta wants to have this transparency and some added protections for the companies that are based there is obviously that betting and gaming is a very significant part of the island's economy. I think there's something like 10% of gambling firms are based there and are registered there. The Malta Gambling Authority is probably one of Europe's most prominent regulators with regards to lots of the licensed companies that are there. There's a lot of prominent firms there. And it's a very, like I said, it's a very significant segment of its economy and a very important one for it. So that is probably really the key reason why they want to have this transparency in there.
So building on that, Ted, what has been the industry's reaction to Malta sanctioning Bill 55?
Well, the most visible reaction we've seen has mainly come from regulators and legal stakeholders. As you noted in your intro, Jessie, the German GGL were one of the first to be vocal about this. In their statement, they said that they made it clear that their opinion on it is that the Bill 55 contravenes EU law, because of just for the reasons I mentioned in my intro. Malta there's a lot of licensed operators in Malta that have quite a long reach, and I think the main concern that some regulators have on this bill is that it will prevent them from being able to effectively conduct enforcement actions against multi-licensed operators that are active in their countries. As this is something we've talked about in some other episodes of iGaming Daily, where there seems to have been a bit of a wave of regulation going on throughout Europe over the past couple of years. A lot of regulators are wanting to update their legislation and their policies and ensure greater compliance with their own regulations in their own countries. And I think some are seeing this bill as potentially being a threat to that. That's also why we've seen this Dutch legal firm put out a statement last week about this as well. The Netherlands obviously re-regulated its market back in 2021. So yeah, there's a couple of concerns that have been voiced across Europe. The Bill 55 might interfere with the regulatory enforcement actions of different EU member states, effectively. But then in response, Malta has argued that the legislation does fall within the EU's, one of the defining principles of the EU, which is the right to freedom of movement, freedom of goods and services.
Ted so obviously Ted has just touched upon this, but Bill 55 has, of course, drawn instant backlash from the GGL and Dutch lawyers. Can you explain a bit more in detail about their concerns?
From Germany's standpoint, from the GGL believes that it's just incompatible with EU law, and it labelled it a protective shield for MGA operators, in which Malta has knowingly set a precedent in which national courts can refuse recognition and enforcement of actions by foreign governments related to gambling authorities. However, it's important to point out that the GGL has not asked the German government to intervene thus far. And as stands, there has been no formal complaint to the European Commission on Bill 55. The other important thing is that when you look at the Dutch point of view, this has just been lawyers lobbying and asking for the Dutch Minister of Justice to set a legal determination and a legal point of view on Bill 55. As such, Malta Gambling will contravene with the. It believes that I think the Dutch lawyers said that Bill 55 will intervene with the development of the COA online gambling marketplace and with the gambling authority, the KSI's ability to govern and to impose laws within a market that it should be regulating.
Do you think an EU intervention is likely to settle conflicts?
Okay, so as stands, with Malta being a member state, look, Bill 55 will receive it will be scrutinized by the European Commission, and it will examine the amendments to see if they're compatible with existing European laws on business and especially on the grounds of free movement and services. But even in that process, legal boundaries will remain obscure as the gambling law remains subject to individual member states' jurisdictions. As we all know, look, European gambling has no harmonization, and it's down to the individual member states to how they set kind of legal precedents on their individual markets. In many ways, this is why people view that the Malta government and the MGA are kind of exposing a loophole in European-wide regulation, and that is kind of the protective this kind of fragmented status of European gambling is actually the protective shield of the regulation. And as mentioned back, despite complaints, as such, no European authority has demanded a direct European intervention on Bill 55, which I think that will likely take place once the assessment is made by the EC or Malta actually triggers Bill 55 in an actual case. So that's still outstanding.
I'd just like to add that I think it's going to be quite interesting to see where this goes with, as Ted says, with how the European Commission scrutiny, what scrutiny from the European Commission will follow this, and also just any sort of legal debates that might come up after that. Because as Ted just laid out, the EU gambling regulation is very fragmented, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how does the freedom of movement principle interact with the individual sort of sovereignty of these different gambling regulators. Like how are those two principles going to interact with each other, and what the sort of balancing act that's going to that there is between those two. I think it'll be quite interesting to see where that leads. And yeah, there might be some quite sort of significant conclusions or consequences or just lessons to draw from this about the nature of cross-border regulation in the EU.
Okay, so finally, let's look into the immediate aftermath to Bill 55. Ted, I'll come to you first.
It's hard because, I mean, it's hard to say what is the actual blowback of Bill 55. Look, to many actually view like Malta is playing EU jurisdictions bluffs with this law. I mean, its provisions, as mentioned, are yet to be tested. However, there's another likely outcome where you could say that European regulators who are revising their laws, they might call for tougher monitoring of gambling incumbents, especially those with MGA licenses. So this actually might blow back on the Maltese regulator itself. Now, I also think that there's a best outcome here, where perhaps the Malta government has actually finally laid the foundations for the European courts and European member states to start talking about harmonizing gambling laws and gambling standards, right? And what is the process for that? So that could actually become an outcome of member states saying, look, we'll challenge Bill 55, but in order to challenge that, we need to establish a platform of harmonized laws to say, look, this is where Bill 55 is actually infringing, or what we find infringing upon a European standard.
Yeah, obviously following whatever political process are going to come about as a result of this, as Malta implements the law. We're just the aftermath is yet to be seen in some ways. We're just going to have to see what happens, and very significantly what will happen when it is first applied in an actual case. You know, of further down the line when it does eventually occur that an overseas regulator, such as in Germany or the Netherlands, tries to bring action against an MGA licensed company, and then that gets prevented by this bill. We'll just have to see what happens after that, whatever processes could come about. But yeah, I'd just like to sort of reiterate Ted's point. The really interesting thing about this will be seeing what impact it has on the debate around European harmonisation. A stakeholder I think it'll be quite interesting to keep an eye out for their perspective on this will be the European Gaming and Betting Association, the EGBA, who for quite some time they've been calling for greater standardisation and harmonisation of cross-border regulation in the EU. So I think that's a perspective that I think it'd be quite interesting to hear.
Okay, to the listeners out there, thank you for tuning in to iGaming Daily, which is of course sponsored by SBC Barcelona, which is creeping up very soon. And thanks again to Ted and Ted for joining. We will see you same time tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of iGaming Daily, brought to you in conjunction with SBC Summit Barcelona, being held at the Fira Barcelona Montjuic on the 19th to the 21st of September. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News Network, or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.